Does anybody notice anything different about me today? Hello everybody, my name is Kim. Welcome to today's video. I glued things to my eyeballs to be more beautiful today. I am not a beauty person at all whatsoever. I kind of hate makeup. It's like a topic for a whole other video, but kind of been on like a quest this year to like figure out how vain I want to be when presenting myself to the outside world. And today's experiment is gluing pieces of plastic to my eyelids. I think what I've learned with sort of experimenting with my appearance a little bit more is like, I mean, first of all, like a lot of people Photoshop stuff or edit things on the internet or whatever. But even if they're not, you could also look beautiful. It's really just time and money and effort and the ability to somehow, you need like 3 hands to put on fake eyelashes because you gotta like hold them. I had little tweezers and was holding them, but then you have to like unscrew the glue and then like put the glue on. You could also look like that. You just probably need 3 arms and time and effort. So today's video today is going to be about sex. Quite a topic. So I've talked on my channel before a little bit about sex and premarital sex and my thoughts around it. I think the video still that has gotten the most views since I sort of rebooted my channel was me replying to Emily Wilson talking about her wedding night. I think that was what the video was about. It's been a while, I don't really remember. Hi everybody, my name is Kim. Side note, I watch a lot of YouTube channels and it used to always confuse me how much YouTubers like don't remember their own videos, and I'd be like, I remember that. I remember every single word, and I realized exactly now how they forget because I don't remember anything. I went back recently and watched a few of my videos and I was like, oh, these are pretty good. Like, wow. But anything I'm currently making I just think is awful, pretty much. But yes, I kind of like watching these videos of people talking about what their wedding night is like. I don't think it's that weird. Like, they're making them for a reason. They're making them so that people watch them. I'm kind of interested in a weird, like, maybe perverted, but just curious way what their nights were like, what their experience was. And I have no problem with people sharing their experiences, talking about the decision that they made and why it was best for them. But I do kind of run into problems when people start telling other people the decision that they ought to make with their sexuality, or what's wrong or what's right, or that kind of thing. And that was what inspired today's response video that I'm going to be doing to this couple called Nate and Sutton. I've been watching Nate and Sutton for a while. I like them. This video that I'm going to be responding to got quite a few views compared to some of the other stuff that they're watching, so a lot of people have probably seen it. It is called Was Our Wedding Night Awkward as Virgins? If you've watched enough of my videos, you know that is the perfect title for a video for me. That is how to get me to click on it every time. But anyway, I've talked enough. Let's watch the video.
What's up, guys?
The intro music kind of cuts off very suddenly there. That would just be my professional opinion as a professional video editor.
If you're new here and you don't know much about us, me and Nathaniel both saved ourselves for marriage, and so that's why we want to do this video, was to talk to other people out there who are trying to do the same thing and to tell you guys about what our wedding night was like as virgins.
Ah yes, people who are trying to save sex for marriage, just like me. That is me, definitely. Did I trick them? Did I get them?
So, right after our wedding exit, we hopped in the limo and then we knew what was to come.
I get it.
And I remember, I think it was probably like, what, an hour-and-a-half car ride to the hotel?
It felt long.
Yeah, it felt like forever. And I remember, I think I was just like smiling ear to ear the entire car ride.
Don't you remember that driver like just kept talking to us, and I don't know if I was listening to anything he was saying. He just wanted to talk to us.
I know, like every word that he said was going in one ear, out the other.
Okay, so I remember personally, like before I had sex for the first time, how consumed I was thinking about it. And like that could have just been because I was a horny teenager or whatever, and that's probably a big part of it. But I think even when you're a bit older, it's still something that you're gonna like think about a lot, and it's still obviously a significant thing, assuming that sex is something that you want to be a significant part of your life. Now, even after that, even after I had sex for the first time, when I was meeting my last boyfriend in person for the first time, we had been long distance for a while and we hadn't actually met. Now, obviously, just meeting in person is like the biggest deal in the world when you're a long distance couple, but having sex is a part of that. And like I said, I experienced a really similar, very, very similar feeling when I was anticipating us having sex for the first time. Now, you still have to be able to like function as a human being, but I remember feeling a very similar thing to what they're describing there, where like I couldn't focus on anything, I couldn't pay attention, like your heart's racing, you're excited, you're smiling, your brain is just like, Wah! So anyway, my point in saying that is I relate to how they're feeling. They will probably tell me that I do not relate to how they're feeling, but I do relate to how they were feeling. And I'm just gonna say, I could not imagine, first of all, being in that mindset and then having to get married and like have a wedding on top of that. Weddings are often stressful and a huge big thing. But then to take a little step back further, I could not imagine being in that mindset and then on top of that having to make a good, rational decision about whether the person you're dating is going to be your life partner or not. But we're still very soon into this video, so I will let them keep talking.
Just like, I remember us holding hands, and
That's not how we do it.
yeah, I remember, what
Why are your hands so cold?
no, why does this feel like we don't know how to hold hands?
Because we're never sitting like this, like on the edge of the couch. This is not right. Anyways.
I don't know whether that was cute or whether that like made me want to puke.
We were holding hands the whole car ride, and every once in a while I remember just us looking at each other and we'd start laughing because it was just like, this was such a big moment that we had both been literally waiting 24 years of our lives.
This is exactly what I mean. Like, a wedding is chaotic enough. I don't want anything else on top of that. You know, I'm not planning on getting married anytime soon, but I would ideally like my wedding night to just be calm. I would like to go home and sleep and be happy.
I feel like the only expectations you can really get is from movies and stuff, if you're not watching porn or anything.
And it was just like the movies.
Yeah, right. And the movies are so misleading. Like, there's so much to it that I didn't know was a thing. I don't know how much detail to get into.
What? That's not, like, good. You also really, really don't have to look hard at all to find non-porn resources about sex. They themselves right now are creating a resource about this topic. Maybe not like a good resource, but they're still creating a resource, and lots of other Christian YouTubers have made videos about their first time having sex as well. I know this because I eat those videos for breakfast. I wrote like a general script for this video, and I literally right there wrote slurp slurp. So, but partially because there's a lot of videos like this that are informative in some ways, but not informative in other ways that young people might watch. That's also why I think it's important schools have good sex ed curriculums, so then people aren't learning from movies and don't feel like they have to watch videos like this to learn about sex. But again, there's lots of good resources out there. There's lots of good YouTube channels. I still read a lot of the sex advice subreddits all the time. Even if you're a person who's saving sex for marriage, it's still really good to inform yourself and know what's going on.
Sutton's like, let me take a shower, let me go do my hair.
Oh yeah, that's something y'all probably, I did see questions about that. We did take a shower first.
You get questions about this? Who is asking you this? What the fuck? Imagine being so afraid to just Google sex stuff that you have to ask a random YouTube channel if they showered before they had sex.
We were at our wedding all day, you know, we danced like crazy at the reception. We were sweaty, like we wanted to take a shower.
Yeah. Speaking of expectations, I feel like it's very important to manage your expectations going into your wedding night, because you never really know, especially if you're a virgin. It can be so easy to think, oh, this is gonna be the greatest thing ever and the best moment of my life, and it's easy to imagine like a movie scene.
Expecting your first time having sex to be the greatest moment of your life is definitely too much pressure to put on the moment. I would agree with them there. Being with a new partner for the first time is almost always going to have a little bit more pressure on it, because it's like, especially if it's a person you're going to be with for a while after that, you're probably going to remember your first time together, so there is just a little bit more pressure on it, and it's new and whatever. And to tie it back to what I was saying before, I just really would not want that pressure and would not want that stress to happen on the night of my actual wedding.
The only thing really that I expected was just that it was gonna be like the most bonding, intimate moment that I've ever experienced, and something that would connect me and Sutton in a way that we've never been connected before.
So like expecting it to be the greatest moment of your life is too much pressure, but expecting it to be the greatest bonding moment of your life, that's just the right amount of pressure. What?
We asked you guys on Instagram, those of you who follow us on Instagram, Nate and Sutton, we asked you guys if there's anything y'all want us to cover in this video, and just scrolling through the questions, all I saw was awkward, 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 was it awkward, was it awkward? Like that was the most common question.
I feel kind of sad for the people asking these questions because I'm assuming a lot of them are probably young girls. And if these girls are really concerned about their first time being awkward, like, I don't even feel like that's the right question to be asking. But if you're raised with a good, positive, healthy attitude about sex, which is something that most people who save sex for marriage, I think, don't have, then it's something that you'll be able to work through and you'll be able to figure out. There might be awkward moments, but the experience as a whole probably isn't going to be awkward.
So as Sutton said on Instagram, we asked you guys some questions or some topics that you guys would like us to cover on this video. So we're going to go through a couple of those right now. What were some of the things people told you about your first time? Was it true or not that it would hurt, that you couldn't walk for days?
What?
So I think this is a rumor for girls that goes around saying your first time is gonna hurt so bad and you can't walk for days. So tell me, Sutton, or tell them, what was your experience like there? This
video is so funny because it's like, what's the line here of what I'm trying to say?
She seems kind of uncomfortable talking about this stuff, and it's like, it's a little bit endearing, but it's also kind of cringy.
I know if I was you guys, I want to know. So anyway. For me, personally, doesn't mean this is how it's going to be for you. I wouldn't say it hurt. It did not hurt. It wasn't the most comfortable thing in the world, like, you know, something you experience every day, but it didn't hurt. Not walking for days, I don't think I've heard that. That's funny. We went paddleboarding, we went kayaking.
Horse riding.
We rode horses in the water. We did everything.
Okay, again, so I feel like if you have an audience of young girls that are coming to you, asking you if their first night is going to be ruined by them being in a lot of pain, I feel like it's kind of irresponsible to not give any kind of advice on this. I get that she says it's her personal experience and that's fine and that's whatever, but I think you also have to understand that when you're trying to set an example and give advice for people on what they should do, then when somebody comes to you and says, did it hurt? What they're really asking is it going to hurt for me? And while I'm glad it wasn't excruciating and awful for her, the truth is that it does hurt for a lot of people and it is really uncomfortable for a lot of people. And the best way to avoid that happening the first time you have sex is for both partners to be as educated as they possibly can be on sex before they have it. This includes reading shit online, watching videos from people who don't squirm uncomfortably when the topic comes up, and learning your own body. Touch yourself, for fuck's sake. It also might be uncomfortable at first, but it should stop being uncomfortable pretty soon after, which I'm sure it did eventually stop being uncomfortable for her, but it's just something she didn't mention. Also, okay, geez, I have a lot more to say than I thought. I don't really like this idea that it's just assuming that the first time you have sex that you're gonna have like P&V sex. Someday when I have more viewers, that's going to be a gift that will come back to haunt me. That's how a lot of people's first time goes. That's all well and good if that's what you're comfortable with, assuming you're like a cishet couple, obviously. I also think part of the benefit of being a virgin on your wedding night should be that you're a grown-up who has lots of time to figure this stuff out, and you're not like a teenager who has to, like, you know, maybe you have time pressure or you can only be together in certain moments or only certain places or whatever. Like, you're an adult who has infinite, in theory, amounts of private time with your significant other, so you could work your way up to things a lot better than other people maybe get the opportunity to do so, if that makes sense. But anyway, I had to get all that out of the way because they are just about to tell me that I can't say any of that.
So the only person that can tell you what it was like to be a virgin on their wedding night is someone who was a virgin on their wedding night. Ah,
yes. My favorite argument. Go on, Nate. Please tell me why.
But people will try to tell you what it's going to be like, even though they never personally experienced it, because there's just such a huge difference between, you know, having sex with a boyfriend or someone that you might not be with the next day, and being worried if you're going to get pregnant, compared to having sex with someone who literally y'all just stood before God making promises that you're going to spend the rest of your life with each other no matter what, that you are surrendering your lives to each other. Along with that comes so much, you just are so receptive and open to the experience, and it's just so much more beautiful.
No. Honestly, like, how dare you tell your audience that it is so much better, so much more beautiful, whatever, when you have no idea what it's like. And I'm not over here saying that I've had any kind of like insane, magical, whatever bonding moments having sex with boyfriends, because honestly I haven't. But I've had sex with people that I love, I've had sex with people that I don't love, and sometimes it's different and sometimes it's not. Now, because I'm an atheist, I will probably never have what they would consider like a real marriage in front of the flying spaghetti monster or whatever. But like, using the information that I've collected in my life, I can imagine that if I do one day get married, I will probably feel similarly to how I do now. Could it be that I am ruining it all right now by throwing my vagina around? Throwing my vagina around and worshiping Satan and burning Bibles and saying, "You, Jesus," every time I look at a penis. Maybe I'm ruining it all. Could it also be that the people who know less about sex just know less about sex? Maybe also that. If you're religious and you want that to be a big part of your life, go read some Richard Dawkins. No, I'm just kidding. But if saving sex for marriage is a decision that you want to make, that's okay. Just educate yourself and don't ignore the opinions of people who have made a different decision, who are trying to help you just because they haven't made the same decision.
People are saying if you spent your whole life as a Christian and your parents and everyone's telling you like, don't do this, it's wrong, it's wrong, it's wrong, and then all of a sudden one day you're allowed to do it, it's just weird. Like, and I thought about that before we got married, because if you think about it, there's really nothing else in your life that those are the standards, like that you're told your whole life, it's wrong, it's wrong, it's wrong, don't do it, and then one day it's just like, go for it.
Isn't it weird that sex is just one of those things where these conservative Christians are told for their entire lives that they're not allowed to do it, and then one day they're suddenly, wait a second, did Sutton just try and steal my thunder? That's just cruel.
So yeah. I was worried that we would feel like guilt-ridden or something, but I really feel like God designed it to where that you just don't, like, it doesn't happen because of what he said. You know, you said your vows, you stood before God and your family and friends, and you've promised yourselves to each other and made that commitment, and you know, this is the way God intended it. So there is no guilt that comes with the way God intended things to be.
The guilt feeling that lots of couples do feel after having sex is something that does not come from not doing things as God intended. It is something that, in my opinion, pretty much exclusively comes from the religious upbringing and specifically being told that sex is wrong. And also lots of religious couples feel guilty after, and I don't think it's fair to say like, oh, you just don't feel guilty because it's how God intended it. Like, then what about all the people who did feel guilty after? It is really hard to erase a lifetime of being told that something is wrong, and that's something that I think is a really cruel part of religious upbringing. I was never taught that there was anything wrong with premarital sex. The concept of like marital sex and premarital sex was not even something on my radar, and I can tell you I have genuinely never felt guilty of the fact that I have premarital sex.
Speaking of that, it is so important to have a healthy perspective on sex before you get married, because a lot of Christians, like she said, are raised to think it's like this horrible, nasty, terrible thing, but it's really not. It's an amazing gift from God. It's his gift to us.
He just says, wait. That's all he says.
Yeah, just wait.
Yeah, guys, you should have a good, healthy perspective on sex. Just don't you dare do it right now, or else you're doing something wrong. What the fuck? Yes, it is true that you should have a good and healthy perspective on sex, but part of having a healthy and good perspective on sex is making the right decision for you, and not the decision that other people think God thinks is the right decision for you.
Someone else asked, which I thought was a good question and is relevant because, you know, we made a video about porn, and we had a lot of views on that video, people saying they struggle with that. So this is a good question for you. Someone said, did seeing porn give you expectations that it would be something that it wasn't?
No, I really don't think it did, thank God.
That doesn't mean you should watch it though.
Yeah, Nate, oh my God, that almost implied that it was okay to watch porn. Oh.
Yeah, I think it's just because God really delivered me from that addiction. When, you know, I don't, if y'all heard our whole story about how I used to look at porn and how when I told Sutton it broke her heart and she was just breaking down to me.
Imagine being heartbroken that your partner sometimes watches porn.
Nothing could stop me from watching it besides when I finally told her that, and to see the hurt and pain in her eyes, that was finally like, whoa, it just left me, that stronghold over me.
Or go throw your router off a bridge and only use Wi-Fi at public library. That's what I think is kind of ironic and funny, because a lot of these Christian YouTubers, a few of them have talked about how they've had problems with being addicted to porn. And people who just casually watch a little bit of porn don't really have a problem with it. But then you see so many of these people who are raised conservative Christian talking about what a big deal it was and how difficult a big struggle it was and how porn is so bad. And the rest of us in the world are just like, we're cool actually. Kind of like an alcoholic saying how nobody should drink and alcohol should be banned and not allowed and forbidden and it's bad and whatever. Meanwhile, people who can have a healthy relationship with it are like, actually, it's all right. And all that wisdom, by the way, was coming at you from a person who does not drink or watch porn. So I definitely know what I'm talking about.
Were we insecure about seeing each other?
I wasn't, were you?
I may have felt a little like, you know, this is kind of crazy. But I don't think I was like insecure.
The only thing that I may have felt insecure about was, you know, you have people like give you lingerie for your wedding or for your honeymoon. And I wore that. That was obviously the first time I ever put anything like that on before. And
why does she say obviously? Is that a thing? Like, I literally had not thought about this until she said that in this video. But are Christians like not supposed to wear like lingerie? Like even just for yourself? Also, maybe I'm just like kind of a judgmental asshole, but the idea of like a virgin wearing sexy lingerie their first time having sex on their wedding night, it's just like, it feels kind of weird to me. Like they say they have no prior expectations, but they're still very clearly like following the steps of what they feel like they're supposed to do.
Did we pray beforehand? I think we
did.
Yeah, we did.
That makes me cringe so hard. Oh my God.
Speaking of that, one thing that was really surprising to me about the whole experience is how emotional it was. Didn't we both cry?
Yeah, I wish we were doing this video closer to when it happened so we would like really remember the details. If any of you are getting married, y'all should make a video about this so you remember.
I can think of a video you could make that would guarantee you remember it perfectly.
One thing that was crazy about the whole thing was I remember being like extremely shaky almost and emotional. We were very shaky and we both cried. I think that just goes to show what a meaningful moment it was.
Okay, some people cry during sex, some people don't. I don't think I've ever cried. I've talked to friends who have cried a few times or cry every time or not cried at all. It varies a lot. It's really normal to be shaky and emotional sometimes during sex, whether it's your first time or your most recent time or whatever it might be. There's something like in the vibe of this that like kind of makes me cringe, and I can't quite explain what it is, but it sort of feels like he's talking about it like a lot more of a positive experience than she is. And I'm not saying that that reflects how they actually feel. It could just be their personalities, but that's kind of the impression that I'm getting. And it probably felt a lot better for him than it did for her. So then something about him like being really enthusiastic and talking about it as this like wonderful, beautiful bonding moment, and her just being kind of like, yeah, like it was. It makes me feel weird. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's just makes me feel weird.
Was it worth the wait?
Let's play a fun game. What will the answer to that question be? I'm really gonna have to sit and contemplate this for a while, really think about it. I'm sure they will say that they regretted it very deeply and have so many regrets and are full of regret.
Heck yes. That's the easiest question I'll ever answer.
It was so beyond worth the wait.
Oh wow, they shocked us all with that answer.
Being good at doing it, I think, is such a funny idea because
what does that even mean?
I know, it's like what does
like
that
I don't
mean?
know how you can be bad.
People who know a lot about sex also don't worry about being good at sex because they know that that's not really how it works. Whether you've had one partner or 100 partners, it's still about being good and receptive to your specific partner. I know a lot of these Christian YouTubers kind of roll their eyes at this phrase, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Sexual compatibility is important. It's not as simple as like being good or bad. Just like when you're a Christian and you're dating somebody for the purpose of marriage, you want to get to know their personality because you want to see if you are, you know, compatible with them and able to exist with them because you want to eventually coexist with a person. It's not about the other person being good or bad at being a person unless they like are a bad person. But you know what I mean? It's not about them being good or bad. It's about them being compatible with you. These couples who save sex for marriage will try and pretend that it doesn't work that way, but it really does work the same way with sexuality. It's not necessarily about being good or bad, but it's about finding somebody who is compatible with you. And you could be compatible with somebody in so many different ways and really not be compatible in the sexual area. And for some relationships, that doesn't doom it, that you can still have a happy relationship. For some relationships, that does doom it, and that's what leads to like cheating and just other awful things, right? And just like with somebody, if you want to spend a lot of time with them after you get married, you should probably see if you like spending time with them before you get married. I think for me, I would prefer to know if I enjoy having sex with someone before we get married because I want to have sex with them regularly after we get married.
Was it awkward? The question everyone wants to know. It was so far from being awkward.
I think it goes back to what I was saying of like, if you're doing things the way God intended it, He doesn't intend for there to be awkwardness and guilt and bad feelings around something that's such a gift.
I would describe it as beautiful, wonderful, pleasing, marvelous, magnificent, lovely, delightful, divine, and ravishing. Pleasing, marvelous, magnificent, lovely, delightful, divine. Yeah, so our wedding night, it was so far from being awkward, but I will tell you what to me sounds like a more awkward situation.
Here's a bunch of things he's never done and has no idea about, but thinks is awkward for some reason.
What sounds more awkward to me is having to tell your future husband and spouse all the people that you've had sex with.
That's literally not awkward. Like, I actually really enjoy hearing about other people's experiences and sharing my own. Like, if there was some kind of disagreement in like the morality behind having a lot of partners, then I guess it would be awkward. Like if your partner thinks it's bad to have slept with a lot of people and you've slept with a lot of people, it would be awkward to have to tell them that. But just like, that's not awkward.
What sounds awkward to me is having a baby when you're not ready.
I don't feel like going over there to get my condoms again, but just remember the clip from my Emily Wilson video of me holding up the condoms. Condoms exist. Birth control exists. Gay people also exist, but these YouTubers never even come close to thinking about anything like that.
Having sex with someone that might not be there for you tomorrow.
Why are y'all so goddamn clingy? It is okay to have sex with somebody and then leave their house at 3 a.m. to walk home because they have to get up early for work the next day and you don't want to get up early the next day. You want to sleep in your own goddamn bed and then you're walking home and you get sprayed by a skunk and you have to sprint home so that the skunk smell doesn't stay on you. Was that a sign from God? Holy shit.
Finding out that the person you had sex with has an STD, that seems kind of awkward to me.
Yes, STDs are awkward. STDs can also happen in marriage. STDs can also happen when you're in a marriage that has a really unhealthy sexual compatibility and then ends up with people cheating on each other and then spreading STDs to their spouses.
And I'm not saying that if you've done these things that you're a horrible person or that you're any less of a person.
Yeah, wow. Like, no way anybody could have gotten that impression from anything that you're saying.
I feel like that's something in our videos that gets misconstrued a lot is when we talk about an ideal way of living or how we feel like God calls us to live, if you didn't do that, that we're like shaming you or saying that you ruined your life or something like that. We're not saying that at all. We're just telling you that, you know, when people are asking us, was our wedding night awkward as virgins? Well, we think the alternatives are way less ideal.
We're not saying that you ruined your life. We're just saying you're not doing the ideal thing. Okay. Why can't the ideal thing just be people making the best decision for themselves?
If you have made the decision to save yourself for marriage, there are unfortunately going to be people out there that are going to tell you it's going to be awkward, it's going to be painful, you're not going to want to wait, you're going to want to be experienced, all these things that aren't true. And if those are the people that you're surrounding yourself with, you should surround yourself with different people.
Remember, kids, if people object to your life decisions, just surround yourself with people who agree with you so that you'll never have to think about it twice. Religion.
If you're trying to save yourself from marriage and you want to get someone's true input and advice, don't listen to people who haven't done it. And that's why we're here for you. All right, we're going to do a lightning round answering some quick questions that you guys asked on Instagram.
Do a little lightning round of questions here where they say that the only preparation that they did was to pray.
Did you do any preparation?
Well, just praying about it.
I think honestly what bothers me the most, out of having watched a few of these videos and having heard a few of their opinions, what bothers me the most is them telling people to ignore the advice of people who didn't save sex for marriage. It's so obviously encouraging people to be like ignorant and closed-minded that it just baffles me. If somebody was still deciding whether or not they wanted to save sex for marriage, I would legitimately encourage them to listen to advice from people who have saved sex for marriage, and I would also encourage them to listen to advice from people who haven't saved sex for marriage. If somebody was deciding whether or not they wanted to be a Christian, I would beyond encourage, I would implore them to read every single word of the goddamn Bible. When it's a decision that is really personal and emotional, you need to make the best decision for you, but you should also be really skeptical of anybody that is giving you advice that encourages you to ignore other people's advice. Wait, in saying that, did I just become a person that's telling people to ignore other people's advice if I'm telling people to ignore advice that says to ignore other people's advice? Did I just discredit myself? Oh my god. If you are going to save sex for marriage, do not do it because a person who did not save sex for marriage started walking by and you went, la 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 la, I can't hear you, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, no, don't do it because of that. I cannot stress this enough. Do not be afraid of what you might learn. Like, knowledge genuinely is power, and the more that you can learn about it, the better off you will be. And that way you know that when you make a decision, you will know that in that moment you were as well informed as you could possibly be about that decision, and you made the decision that was the very best for you at that time, and there's nothing more that you can really ask of yourself. Wow, what a positive takeaway. Good job, me. Also, depression exists and we're all gonna die anyway. Thank you everybody for watching this video. If you enjoyed, be sure to give it a like and subscribe to my channel for more. I will see you in the next video where I will be talking about something else.